After we left Dongola in Sudan, we drove through beautiful villages along the Nile and found wonderful places to stay overnight at the river. We visited Jebel Barkal and El Kuro World Heritage Sites. We are fascinated by these unique pyramids in the middle of Sudan. Pyramids are more connected to Egypt than to Sudan. Near El Kuro we visited some graves with beautiful wall paintings. They looked ghostly in the light of the flashlight. From there we went straight to the south. From Atbara, about 70 kilometers further on, we visited the pyramids of Meroe and finally arrived in Khartoum, the capital of Sudan, where we could take a look at the confluence of White and Blue Nile. In Khartoum we stayed a few days, visited the tomb of the Mahdi, strolled through the old souk, went for a haircut and witnessed the dance of the dervishes. From Khartoum we head towards Ethiopia. Soon after Khartoum, Africa is changing and there appear the first round thatched huts as they are so typical for Black Africa. Since there are no campsites and we do not make it up before dark to the border, we are looking for a place away from the road in the bush. Bush camping is no problem in Sudan. The people are very friendly and you can sleep undisturbed. Early in the morning we go on. If all goes well and the roads are good, we are crossing the border into Ethiopia today. Bine reports on the radio that their last Sudanese pounds have to be exchanged. Gedaref is the last major town before the Ethiopian border. There is also a bank. We have to look for it. stop in a side street and wait for wine. Gedaref is for Sudanese conditions a larger city. It is the center of the agricultural hinterland. Sorghum and sesame are cultivated here. Even cattle breeding is done in the region, especially by nomadic Arabs. With the donkey cart, the grain is brought into the city to the many mills that contribute as a small craft on the urban economy. Soon all shopping is done and we move on. A strange-looking landscape accompanied us. There is little traffic. People and domestic animals are the most common road users in this part of Sudan. Also peace reigns at the moment. There has been disturbances again and again. Reasons are lack of political representation of communities in the national government and a low investment in the development of Eastern Sudan. Animals have right of way, as everywhere in Africa. They are after all the livelihood of the people here. An animal run over is a worse offense than to hurt or to kill a man, common in all of Africa. Patiently we wait until the herd is crossing the road. From a caretaker is no trace. Suddenly we discover the boy who should take care of the camel herd. He must have forgotten that his animals are crossing the streets. The boy is maybe 8 to 10 years and has a responsible job. Spontaneously, the term child labor comes into our mind. But this concept is one of the Western world. Child labor is not a concept for the Sudanese. They have a different view of the world, other necessities. Children simply grow up in the family. Slowly they are growing up with the tasks, and I get the impression that they are not so unhappy. Reading and writing most of them learn in the Islamic school. In brisk drive we approached the border. Already early in the afternoon we crossed the border and found a place to sleep on the Ethiopian side of the border. Galabat consists only of a few mud huts, and the customs officials sitting in a mud hut as well. We have heard a lot about Ethiopia from other travelers. Apparently a lot of people gather around a vehicle as soon as it stops. Some have also said that they were really harassed. Forewarned, we depart from the main road out of sight and find a good place for the night. It promises a peaceful night. In such situations, Tara is a big help. Most Africans and Arabs fear dogs, especially black dogs, and therefore we had always been lucky at the borders, because the officers avoid to search the car as far as possible, because Tara does not tolerate strangers in the car. But officers have a rather easygoing way. Passport stamped, carnet stamped, also none is required for Ethiopia, but here they like stamps, not a single look into the car. Unimaginable at the European Community external border. The night was really quiet. Just in the evening 2 shepherds guided their animals home. They greet us and did not take notice of us. The road to Gondar is in good condition, but we do not drive to Gondar, but first turn off on a gravel road to Lake Tana. There, Tim and Kim, two Dutch, have started a relief project. Slowly the road climbs up into the mountains. Time and again we pass through roadside villages, and every time there are a lot of people on the road. Everywhere in the country, highways are improved at the moment. The asphalting of the main routes is progressing rapidly. Built by Chinese companies, of course, they want economic influence in the country. The road villages are always created equally. Simple mud huts with tin roofs, the modernized form of round huts with thatched roof. We enjoyed the ride through this beautiful country. We imagined quite differently. Commuter transport is carried out, as in the rest of Africa, by small minibuses, from 9 to 15 people registered. The road winds uphill more steeply. Ethiopia is generally situated very high. We will cross passes which are above 3,000 meters, and our vehicles will fight rather heavily due to the thin air of the mountains. At the top we stop and enjoy the view. Here the true Africa starts, savanna-like landscape in hilly area. It is extremely dry here, everything is dried up. Apparently it has not rained for a long time. Bain is enthusiastic and shoots photo after photo. Bodo also loves photography. They are both very committed and make really good pictures. We enjoy the time with them and have loads of fun. A heavy truck crawls up the street. At road construction, in this rocky terrain, no regard is taken to the degree of slopes, unlike in Europe, as in Western countries they build more tunnels and bridges, which would be far too expensive here, and here you have time anyway, the only thing the Africans have plenty of. Soon we reached the first really large city. I urgently need a SIM card for the phone. Here we will try our luck. You learn from faults, a proverb says. As we had a lot of problems with our car in Tunisia, we had to call several times to Europe. We ended up with a phone bill of €1,000. Since we always use SIM cards from the respective countries, our phone costs have fallen dramatically. So we hope to get an Ethiopian SIM card here. We look for the post office, there should be any. Found. Stopping left at the side and try our luck.
Leben Otter. Vielleicht kannst du Brot da irgendwo kaufen. So im Auto bleiben damit.
Sorry, no. In Ethiopia one needs a passport, that is not the problem. 2 photographs, no problem. Submit a request and after 6 weeks you get the SIM card sent to you. Then you have to buy phone credits and load to your mobile phone. Just one problem, we cannot wait for 6 weeks. Perhaps there's a different solution. In the meantime, Tara has displaced my wife from the front passenger seat and enjoys the scenery. She likes to sit in the passenger seat. In Western countries it is strictly prohibited. Here nobody cares about. The people are more than surprised or laugh when they see a dog at the passenger seat. The best she likes when animals cross the road, which she really finds exciting. In Ethiopia, more than anywhere else, you have the impression that the road is built for pedestrian traffic. Tons of people are on the road. About 77 million people live in Ethiopia, of which 43% are under 15. The age of 65 is reached only by 3%. From 1994 to 2007, the population rose from 49 million to 77 million. The average life expectancy is 48 hours. Per thousand, there are 110 stillbirths.
Rechts halten in den Gravel.
In Azetso, we turn towards Gorgora on Lake Tana.
Dem Gravel.
Soon the paved road goes over into a gravel road, but it is in good condition and we can ride comfortably with 60 kilometers per hour. After about an hour we reach Gorgora. From here it is about half an hour to Tim and Kim village at Lake Tana. People at the roadside marvel. Not often foreign vehicles come along here. We will see later in other parts of Africa that children sometimes run away in panic at the sight of white people. We later learned that here in Africa the white man is the one who steals the children. Of course, not the black man like in Europe. Here the whites are the evil. In the last village before Tim and Kim village, we come to a halt.
Hello, mister.
Hello.
Tim village? Tim village?
Kim village, yeah?
The truck of Bodo and Pine is wide and high and have problems with the low-hanging power lines.
Hello.
Because we are smaller and lighter and the road is uncertain, we drive ahead to see how the road condition is. The road is bad, but not impassable. We pass this information on by radio to our friends. And suddenly, there in front of us, Lake Tana, the largest lake in Ethiopia. It is situated 1860 meters above sea level with a depth of 72 meters. We drive to the camping area directly situated on the banks and are amazed that we again see the Dutch couple we had met months earlier in Cairo.
Hi!
Unfortunately, they continue on the same day. We have an idyllic spot overlooking the lake and want to relax for a few days. The last days we spent many hours in our vehicles. Kim and Dim Village is a relief project which goes back to a Dutch donor group. The goal is to build a lodge with a campsite in a few years and pass it on upon completion to the local managers. Tim and Kim build everything themselves. They only have a few helpers and work hard from morning to night. They are also far from civilization, thus exposed to many diseases and had been some serious attacks of malaria. Schistosomiasis is apparently not existent in this part of Lake Tana, and so we use the water from the lake for washing and cooking. We enjoy the peace and tranquility at the lake and the beautiful landscape. Lake Tana is a paradise for ornithologists. There are countless species of birds, some only exist here at the lake. Udo and Bein had collected clothes in Germany and carried them in their truck. Actually, they wanted to distribute them in Tunisia, but when it was clear that they come with us to South Africa, they have kept the things for Ethiopia. Kim and Tim organized a distribution of clothing, and the people soon flow in from the nearby village. Patient and disciplined people are waiting for the start of the distribution. The tension is high, the goods are spread out, and one can even munch on what pieces you can get hold of. Tim manages the distribution because he knows the residents of the village and tries to distribute balanced. Finally, everyone should get its share and not one person all of the things. He also makes sure that everyone gets only those things he can also really need. Of course, it is difficult to prevent that one or the other piece is finally sold on the black market, which however should not happen. On the other hand, if a shirt is exchanged or sold for something else which is perhaps more urgently needed, the closest donation meets its purpose as long as no alcohol or drugs are purchased. Of course, there is juice and cake, a nice gesture of the two Dutchmen, because thus it is a meeting among friends and no relief distribution. The two really organized with sensitivity. The distribution of Western goods is always problematic. In general, the issue of development aid is controversy. We discuss on the subject many evenings, and there appear some questions to be answered with great difficulty. Is it a disturbance for the culture of the people here? Will they still produce their traditional clothing? Does it create a dependency from the West? Does it encourage begging? Are people really in need, or are they just in need within the meaning of Western thought? Is one in need if there is no satellite dish on a thatched roof? All difficult questions, and we have seen, unfortunately, just a lot of abuse in Ethiopia from relief organizations, expensive land cruisers rushing down the roads, the sign of charity at the door. Ultimately, everybody must decide for itself how he deals with these things. In any case, the action was much joy, and we sort out our thoughts and our pictures because we will head to Gonda, a city with much history. The next morning we leave Tim and Kim village and heading back on the gravel road. Roads are often washed away and you have to dodge around the area. This time we just have to pass a dry riverbed. In the early afternoon we reach Gonda, the historic royal city. First we visit the palace district, the so-called Camp. The plant was started in 1630 and over the years more buildings have been added to the construction. The whole district includes 7,000 square meters and is surrounded by an enclosure wall with 12 gates. No buildings are alike. The best preserved is the palace of Fasilidas. It is the oldest on the site and is the symbol of Gonda. A legend says that an old man had advised the emperor to build, instead of a pond, his palace here. First he had built 4 towers, one for himself, one for his wife, one for audiences and the court. The space in between was roofed over later for banquets. The palace has almost square floor plan of 25 by 25 meters. The interiors are still used for official events occasionally. From the palace you have a good look at the archive. This two-story building with corner tower is now a ruin. In the yellow plaster building is the library of the Emperor John. The upper floor is reached by a staircase. Today the management of the camp is housed here. Emperor David III had built later the Singer Hall. At the very end of the complex there is the palace of Mentewab. The empress built the palace in a trench. The upper floor is accessed via a bridge. The turret is to be constructed more as an ornament than as a defensive tower. Door and window frames are divided beautifully. The palace now houses the town library of Gondar. Ethiopia is famous for its churches and monasteries. We visit the monastery of Debre Berhan Selassie. One enters the plant, which is surrounded by a wall through a gatehouse with tower. The monastery was built in 1700 and consecrated the same year. Into the perimeter wall, towers and apartments are built for the monks. According to legend, it was not only the strong wall that saved the monastery in 1888 from the onslaught of the Mahdist. A swarm of bees attacked the assailants, who had then fled from the monastery. The church itself is built in an odd shape. The long rectangular building copies the form of a basilica in axiom, dealing with pillars, as the rock church Medhane Alem in Lalibela.
the condemns as one-eyed while they are suffering in hell, because they are already in hell. But as you can see, devil is choosing this point.
On the ceiling, winged heads of angels are painted, with the big eyes typical of the style of Gonda.
And then the monasteries destroyed.
The wall paintings are among the finest in Ethiopia. Today's paintings have been restored during the 19th century. On the walls there are almost all aspects of Ethiopia's religious paintings represented.
King, blessings and Mary. That this is
And the last supper.
she was safe, even if she drank water. That's why you can see the birth of Christ in here, in Bethlehem, and then they flew to Egypt. The Holy Family fly to Egypt when King Herod was persecuting them.
We drive on to the bath of the Fasilidas. The unique water tower stands in a garden overgrown with large trees. On site is a pool of 70 by 40 meters in which the castle is built. The pool is for reasons of preservation not filled with water all year round. Just for Timkat celebration, the feast of the baptism of Jesus, it is filled with a water pipe from the river. After people had spent the night in prayer, the Bishop of Gonda inaugurates the water by dipping his crows, which is the sign for the children to jump into the sacred waters of the basin. A wooden cross is allowed to float on the water. From the direction in which it floats, the priest reads the future. We are tired of culture by now. We want to explore the more remote parts of Ethiopia, especially the northern parts around Aksum. Early morning we leave our guest house. We could park and camp in the courtyard, a little cramped, but definitely with a flair. Soon after Gonda begins one of the most breathtaking areas of Ethiopia. The area is becoming increasingly inhospitable and rough. The village is poorer, the roads worse. We have heard a lot about the north. Boundless poverty coupled with wonderful scenery, friendly people, but also robberies and bandits. It is controversial, the north. Only a few people travel to the provinces of Gonda, Wolo and Tigray. In the media we often hear the crisis-ridden region of Tigray. Why do we want to go there? We do not know. Is it adventure? Is it curiosity? Anyway, we are already on the road, some 400 kilometers of rocky roads ahead of us. We will have to camp in the bush because there is no accommodation or camping. We will not see any settlement for days. Because of the bad road, we reach an average speed of 12 kilometers per hour. Daily maximum 100 kilometers. Then you fall dead into the bed of the camper. We have got a squeaking noise at the vehicle. Will we get into a bigger problem? Shock absorbers, wheel bearings, or even a transmission or engine mount? There is no return, so we go on. Maybe we can locate the sound and fix the damage in Exum. We get a lot of dust. The dust is pulled into the car through the back door. Everything is covered with a finger-thick layer of dust. Before the night, the car must be properly cleaned. The road always takes its toll. Again and again we see trucks overrolled. Axles or lack of concentration could be the cause. The day is coming to an end. We will soon have to find a safe place for the night to continue further on in the morning.